Of course, the Reds go to Atlanta and beat the freaking Atlanta Braves after being swept by the Nationals.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds. Welcome into the show. We are your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. I've been covering the Cincinnati Reds in podcast form for 6 years. Over there, that guy, that is Walmart Jeff Carr. It is Tim Daniel joining us, filling in for Jeff Carr, who is actually in Atlanta. I've not heard from him, so I hope everything's okay. He's celebrating a Reds win down in Atlanta, but he has not checked in. Hopefully he is A-okay. I'm sure he is. He's probably just neck deep in craft beer. That is what I think is.
You don't think you went to Magic City?
He probably didn't. He's still drinking the craft beer. This is a Locked On Network podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I love the Cincinnati Reds. Tim over there, he loves the Cincinnati Reds. We love this team. They don't ever love us back. We love baseball. We love the Reds, and we have turned that love of baseball and the Reds into information for you. Again, Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's show, we're talking about a freaking win against the Braves. They get swept by the Washington Nationals. I call for David Bell to get fired. I call them sellers. So, of course, they go and they beat the Atlanta Braves. We're going to be talking about a tremendous start from Hunter Greene, his first start after the All-Star break. I'm going to get Tim's reaction to that whole conversation yesterday. I know he watched the show. He heard what I had to say. We're going to check in on if he agrees with me or if he disagrees with me. He better agree with me, but we'll see what happens. It's my show. He has to agree. We're also going to talk about the Alexis Diaz problem. I think we have an Alexis Diaz problem. Tim doesn't necessarily think we have an Alexis Diaz problem. It's going to make for a fun conversation. Before we get into any of that, shout out to our sponsor today, Booking.com. This episode of Locked On Reds is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rival city, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Chicago. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. All right, Tim, listen, I really ripped the Reds apart yesterday, and I didn't know what to expect when I got into the comment section, when I got into the replies today. And turns out most people agreed with me. I had several best show ever comments. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. I had a one comment of the single best episode of Locked On Reds I've ever seen. Whoever that was, I love you back. But I was worried because I dug in. I went hard, and I don't do that very often. And we're going to get into all of that in the second segment. But the Reds come out today, and of course, they beat the crap out of the Atlanta Braves. Hunter Greene comes on his first start post All-Star game. Tim, 7 innings, only 2 hits. He walked 3 dudes over 7. Fine. I'm cool with that.
Same.
Struck out 7 guys, 1 per inning. Tremendous start from Hunter Greene. He gets the win. He's 7-4 on the year. Hunter Greene, in my mind, we talked about, you and I have talked about this, Jeff and I have talked about this, the 3 of us have talked about this down at the ballpark, that we needed Hunter Greene to evolve. We needed him to go from thrower of extraordinary heat to pitcher of Major League Baseball. And he's done that, in my estimation. He has now evolved into the Cincinnati Reds' #1 ace starter.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really close at this point. Lodolo, You're kind of seeing these steps in his maturation process that haven't come just yet. I believe they will. And that was a really great conversation on my show last night that Ben Brown and I had about
and by the way, Ben, I know Ben listens sometimes. So Ben, that whole thing you did yesterday, your cut it loose meltdown, whatever you want to call that, spot on. Tremendous stuff. If you haven't seen what Ben Brown had to say, go check out Late Night Reds from Sunday night, because Ben Brown was on one and it was a little bit inspiring.
Yeah, I got multiple text messages today that said, "Why'd you even finish the show? Like you could have ended it there." And so, yeah, you're probably right. But my point was that Lodolo kind of seems some spots where we're still seeing his maturation process in the sense that people are now not swinging at that back leg breaking balls, right-handed batters, and so Hunter Greene has kind of taken those steps. And I know a lot of people were disappointed in his all-star appearance, which is like stupid to me because it's the all-star game. So maybe he was pissed off about it too, and that's what made him want to be motivated to do his thing. He kind of seems like he's that guy between the ears that something goes wrong, he wants to make it right. And I think he just really enjoys pitching in Atlanta, Steve. History kind of says it. That's where he made his big league debut. Had a great first start, and then again today. I think he just likes this whole Truist Park thing. And
he has an affinity for Hank Aaron. He's talked about that in the past. Like the history, like Hunter Greene is a student of the game. Hunter
1000%.
Greene loves the history of baseball. So when he gets to places like Dodger Stadium, when he gets to places like Atlanta, like it hits him a little bit harder. But for me, Tim, just watching how he approaches things this year versus how he's approached things in the past, I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe he's turned the corner. I don't think there's any going back. I think he has become that pitcher that all of the scouts said he was going to be. All of the coaches said that he is and was going to be. All the pitcher that the fans hoped he would be. He's that guy right now.
You talk about since last year. Let's just look at since April. I mean, April, he ran into some of those starts where you were like, oh no, here we go again. And then May comes around and he's had a bad start here and there, but I mean, everybody does. That's what you expect for a starting pitcher. Not every day is going to be lights out. And about 8 times out of 10, he's been lights out. So even today, he had another situation, I guess, where he was a little overhydrated and didn't let it affect him and did his business. And you love to see it, man. He's just not phased like he used to be. It's not, oh man, I let this runner on and I lose my composure. It's, oh crap, I walked a guy. Okay, let's just get to the inning. And I love that. I absolutely love it.
So let's talk about this game a little bit, Tim, because the Cincinnati Reds, after a disastrous weekend performance in the nation's capital, getting swept by the Washington Nationals, they go down to Atlanta, a team that on paper, pretty much superior to the Reds. I mean, if you look at this team on paper, the Braves are better. And the Reds go in and win 4-1. And you look at this, we've talked about Hunter Greene and what he was able to do. Jonathan India in the leadoff spot goes 1 for 4. It picks up an RBI in this game. Elly De La Cruz off of the All-Star game, man. 2 for 4, scored 2 runs in this game. He has a walk. He did strike out twice. Who cares?
Those were terrible strikeout calls. Horrible strikeout calls.
Elly De La Cruz, listen, I know people get hung up on his strikeout numbers as far as when he's in the batter's box. And I know there's a segment of Reds country that wants to just beat him into the ground for the fact that he leads the league in errors amongst shortstops. I don't care. He's hitting 258 in a year where nobody's hitting the ball. And he's the most electric guy on the baseball field. Tremendous performance from Elly tonight down in Atlanta, or yesterday down in Atlanta.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that everyone's hampers on the errors. He's still metric-wise a plus defender, which is hilarious.
He is, and nobody understands that, and he is.
But whatever, yeah, just get mad about the E number. Dude, so you talk about that. Elly De La Cruz has the triple, kind of gets things going there, has a double. You mentioned the 2 strikeouts. I thought they were terrible calls, man. They were just, they were, and it's a common conversation where his strike zone is called differently than everyone else's, and that does contribute to the strikeouts. No, it's not the whole thing. Will Benson hits a homer right after he robs a homer in the second inning. Gives Hunter Greene a little bit of a love,
which of course he did, because I called for a total replacement of the outfield on yesterday's episode.
We all did.
So of course,
all Reds podcasters did. I shouldn't say all, but I didn't listen to everybody. I just listened to us, because our shows are the ones that matter. And yeah, man. I mean, we probably did the same show yesterday, realistically, and just the only difference is I had Ben and Jeff was off. But yeah, I did the same thing. And then Will Benson, of course, today comes out and jacks a bomb and robs a bomb. And I think he had 2 hits today. Did I have that wrong? Yeah, he was 2 for 2 today. So
2 for 2.
He was
2 for 2 with a walk, baby. Like
a walk and a bomb. You know,
not bad for a guy hitting a $194.
Yeah, with a 674 OPS.
You know who else had a great day is Jeimer Candelario. And I talked about him a lot yesterday in the fact that I don't consider him to be a viable trade piece just because he's been up and then down again, and he's fighting the tendonitis, and he goes out today and goes 2 for 4 with not one but 2 RBIs. He struck out one time. Who cares? He's hitting 236 on the season. His OPS 754 and going up. Jeimer Candelario, I talked about this, and we'll dig deeper in the next segment, Tim, but I think he's a valuable piece to keep around. And when he's on, he's really valuable in this Reds lineup.
Yeah, and I think with that additional year on his contract, with that option, I think that that's kind of going to be the hamper of him being moved. So I think we're kind of in a situation where we're on with him, and I'm fine with that. You mentioned the ups and downs, and that's to be expected, especially at a team like this who can't get 4 guys to hit consistently at the same time ever. And it's just kind of made it a really frustrating year. But yeah, just kind of having that veteran presence, that guy who's seen it all, done it all, and just, kind of continues to rake, and then kind of has these moments where you're really frustrated with them, is to be expected from a guy at his point, and kind of goes with the trajectory of what his career's been, right? I mean, he's kind of been this guy since he got to the bigs.
All right, Tim, here's where we're going to go. I know that you listened to our show from yesterday, and I had a lot of things to say.
You did.
More hot takey than I've been in a while. And coming up, we're going to dig into that and talk about how the Reds going down to Atlanta and winning a game, does it impact that? Does it change our minds any? Does it make us want to rethink what you and I both had to say after the Washington Nationals series? We're going to get into that coming up next. This episode of Locked On Reds is brought to you by Bookings.com. Yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about the rival cities. We're talking about Pittsburgh, Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis. With hotels, bread and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more, on Bookings.com, you have the perfect place to stay. You might find just your perfect stay, even in one of those cities that I just mentioned: Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Chicago, St. Louis. It has to happen if you want to see the Reds on the road. From hotels that overlook the stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even those places that I just talked to you about. So visit Booking.com today, and you can book your trip either on Booking.com or the Booking.com app. Summertime means baseball. Baseball is going to take center stage the rest of the dog days, and you can bet on all of it over at FanDuel. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. Every single day, there's something for everyone. Every day, all summer long over at FanDuel. You can bet the Ellie parlay. Jeff has told you about the Ellie parlay lots, and I'm telling you what, he's hit on that thing lots and lots of times. It's pretty easy. You find Ellie De La Cruz, you're going to build a parlay. You're going to say that he's going to get 1 or more steals, and he's going to score 1 or more runs, and for the game, he's going to have 2 or more total bases. That's your parlay. Ellie is hitting on that thing, and it's got a plus 400 odds most of the time. It's a quick and easy way to have a little fun, make the Reds game a little more exciting, and who are we kidding right now? We definitely need the Reds games to be a little bit more exciting. Just visit FanDuel.com right now, and you can add a big win to your summer bucket list. Again, try that Ellie parlay: 1+ steals, 1+ runs scored, 2+ total bases over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And by the way, Tim, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Ellie hit the Ellie parlay in last night.
Sure he did. Yeah.
So if you had bet the Ellie parlay on FanDuel, you would be cashing in some money right now. Listen, you've got to check out Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 streaming sports channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinion, and news from our national hosts and local experts like Jeff and myself. And Tim Daniel, he's kind of a local expert as well. Just check us out on YouTube or streaming 24/7 on the Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All right, Tim, I know you watched yesterday's show, and you and Ben Brown did a thing on your show on Sunday Night Live, and I did a thing all by myself because Jeff wasn't here to keep me from doing it. And we both kind of went all in on we're kind of done with this stuff. The Reds are not a playoff team in 2024, and we need to look towards 2025. That is kind of where you and I both ended up. Mm-hmm. And then the Reds promptly went into Atlanta and beat one of the better teams in baseball. So the question is this. You heard what I had to say. We know what you had to say. Does what they did in Atlanta last night change at all your opinion of what they should do between now and the trade deadline?
No, because they did this against Atlanta. They also did this against the Dodgers. They also did this against the Yankees.
And the Phillies.
And we're still sitting here having this same conversation, Steve. So no, it didn't. It's great. I'm happy that they won the game they did in Atlanta. I hope that they continue to win today and tomorrow. Do I think they're going to? Probably not. There's a good chance they're going to drop one of those. But especially God knows what this Nick Martinez bullpen day thing looks like tonight. But no, man, because they're still not in a situation where they can contend. And I think that had they won the series in Washington, they'd been closer in the race, and we're looking at 3-4 games out instead of 9 or wherever we're at now. Then yeah, I'm probably willing to have that conversation about changing my thought process. But we're still in the same boat, still looking up at everyone in the Central, including the Cubs, who are worse than the Reds. They're not a better baseball team than the Reds, and still don't have anything that you can really feel. So you and I had the same conversation on our shows about, okay, everyone on social media is like, sell. It's empty grocery store shelves right now, my guy. What are we selling? The things you can sell, you don't want to sell. You got your prime rib sitting on the shelf right now. You want to keep that in the freezer. You want to give them more that cheesesteak stuff that you can get that's like in the frozen food aisle. And they don't have that here. So no, things are not changed. I'm not going to be through the moon about Emilio Pagan getting traded. I'm not.
No, I went through this. I mean, and I know you listened because I asked you to, but I went through this basically player by player, and there's nobody that's going to bring you the return for the thing that you need. Right. And there's not really on the major league roster, even anybody you can package and get a trade to get the thing in return, which is the thing you need. Where I landed was, if you really have a seller out there at the All-Star break, or I'm sorry, at the trade deadline, that has that right-handed outfield power bat that you really want, it's going to take prospect capital from the minor leagues. That's your trade. Nobody from the major league roster. Where I went that your show didn't necessarily go on Sunday, Tim, was that I called for the outright removal of David Bell as the manager of this team. And I understand the relationship that he has with the Castellini family and the relationship that his family has with the Castellini family. So I did not say the Cincinnati Reds should fire David Bell. What I said was the Cincinnati Reds should promote him, make him the assistant general manager, make him the vice president of whatever the hell it is that they need to make him the vice president of. Make him Bob Castellini's caddy. I don't care. His responsibilities for day-to-day operations in the dugout should end. That's where I am. And I don't care that they went down in Atlanta, because actually them going to Atlanta and winning last night, Tim, is on brand. It's exactly what I said they were. They are inconsistently consistent. They beat the Phillies. They beat the Dodgers. They beat the Braves. They beat all of these teams, and yet they can't beat the freaking Washington Nationals, a series that they had to have. They had to have that series. So it does not change my opinion. David Bell needs to go. I will say, and shout out to our everydayers that were in the comment section. Many of them pushed back with my take that you name Derek Johnson the interim manager. And I went with that simply because he's the only guy in-house right now that I suspect they would be remotely close to be willing to name a manager. He might be the guy they want a trial of. So I used his name as a placeholder, but shout out to our everydayers. They came back with a couple names that don't have jobs right now that are intriguing to me. Joe Madden being one of them, David Ross being the other one. And listen, I don't know when's the last time a team hired an interim manager from outside in the middle of a season, but I would be on board with either of those guys, Tim, Joe Madden or David Ross, to come in here right this minute and see if they could instill a little bit of discipline in this team and get guys to stop making mental errors and physical errors and hold them accountable when they do screw up, because those are all of the things that I feel like are lacking from David Bell right now. I also feel like those are two very seasoned, educated managers that would be able to put the players that they have, regardless of the injuries, the players that they have in the best position to be successful. And that is where I think David Bell has dropped the ball the most. We've seen him set Stuart Fairchild over the weekend series in Washington with a left-handed pitcher on the mound. And then we see him start him against a right-handed pitcher. And I know Stuart homered. Fine, whatever. He's batting $135 against right-handed pitching. That's not the guy you start in that scenario. So those are the things that David Bell does that drives me crazy. So for me, I'm still all in on making a change. I'm still all in on bringing in whoever it is that can bring a little bit more consistency, that can bring a little bit more discipline, and that will hold these players accountable when they don't do what they're supposed to do. These are grown men making, in many cases, millions of dollars to play a game. You have to hold them accountable. And that's what's been lacking for me all along.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of a common conception in everything we're putting out in our content as well. Bill Lack has been on this big time all year.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he's been on the show with Chad and Nate. And then we kind of had this similar conversation yesterday, Ben and I did, about this via text, and then Sunday on the show, where it's not just the fact that he's just super lethargic and is, well, you know, they need to score more runs. Or I'm still very, very annoyed by earlier in the year, there was that game in May where Tyler Stevenson didn't get a bat in the bottom of the ninth. And David Bell's reaction was, well, if we got the guy on before him, he would have gotten that bat. And it was a 1-run game. And I'm like, you're super irritating. But yeah, dude, I understand that he's not given all the ingredients to make filet mignon if we're going to keep doing these food references, right? But I also understand that the way he's cooking the filet mignon is not safe, according to the health services. You or someone who works in medical, you understand this. But I just feel like with him, it's just this like consistent WTF lineups that we kind of just all scratch our heads when we see the push notification pop up from @Reds. Shout out that admin has to go through that pain every day. God bless you, and I hope you have fantastic beers in December on. But we just kind of see this all the time, man. I mean, you talk about, obviously, the way India De La Cruz, yeah, I understand that's 1-2. That's going to get the thing going. I don't really have an issue with today's lineup per se. But, yeah, we're seeing this consistently. And these guys that should not be getting Major League at-bats are getting Major League at-bats way too often. And, again, that's not his fault. I understand that. You deal with what's given to you when you go to war, but what he's got going on right now is pretty brutal, and I don't think he's doing anything to help it.
All right, I'm standing by what I had to say. Sounds like Tim is standing by what he had to say. One win does not change our minds. It is time for the Cincinnati Reds to make some real changes in order to get this team into the win column. And in order for that to happen, I think personally, David Bell has to go.
Same.
That being said, the Reds have bigger problems than David Bell, and I think they have a closer problem. Tim hates even the word closer. I think the Cincinnati Reds have an Alexis Diaz problem, and we're going to dig into that coming up next. The best way to enhance your baseball watching experience is with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's so easy to see why they're the best in the business, because you can win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks. All you need is as little as 4 correct picks in an entry, and you could turn $10 into $1,000. All you need to do is pick your favorite player, like Ellie De La Cruz or Hunter Greene or Nick Lodolo, and then find your favorite stats and click more or less. So if you think Ellie is going to steal a couple bases in a game, you want to click more. If you think that Hunter Greene is going to strike out, I don't know, maybe the first 6 batters that he faces in a game, you're going to want to click more on the strikeout. Same with Nick Lodolo, click the more on the strikeouts. The possibilities are endless over at Prize Picks. All you have to do is download the Prize Pick app today and use the promo code, all lowercase letters, Locked On MLB, for up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's right. They're going to give you $100 match, up to $100 match on your first deposit, simply by using the promo code Locked On MLB, all lowercase. Again, that code is Locked On MLB, all lowercase, and you'll get an instant deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you're going to get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Available only to U.S. customers. Tim, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can catch every pitch of the Reds hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. And also, if you're looking for tremendous written coverage of the Cincinnati Reds, head to CincinnatiRedsTalk.com for written content about your Reds. James Rapine's writing over there. Jeff's writing over there. I'm dropping in from time to time. Lots of great written content at Cincinnati.
Haven't got my invite yet.
.com. I will rectify that. I'll have James contact you.
I'm good.
Sir. All right. Alexis Diaz was much relied upon to be the Cincinnati Reds' ninth inning closer, ace, guaranteed dude out of the bullpen heading into this season. He's not been that guy, Tim. He has not been guaranteed. He has not been exciting. I have apprehension every time he comes into a game, and I am very, 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 very worried about Alexis Diaz. Where are you at this point? Because for me, I feel like, and I know you hate closers, and you can talk about that a little bit too, because I don't necessarily disagree with you. But from a standpoint, if the Reds are going to have a closer and they're going to say that Alexis Diaz is their closer, that's not the guy I want out there in the ninth inning right now.
Yeah. So to your first question, would I say that I hate closers? It's not that I don't think that someone who can get 3 outs in the ninth inning isn't valuable. I totally respect and understand that. My issue is that every single team ballot goes on the sense that they have one guy that can do that. And I think that's silly. I think that's the stupidest concept. And I think that on every team. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand there's been some very special dudes who've done it. The Mariano Rivera, the Dennis Eckersley's, hell, even the Aroldis Chapmans in Cincinnati. It was, I mean, there's something that
Johnny Franco, Randy Myers.
Yeah. And it's entertaining as hell when those guys come in because you feel very good. I totally get and respect and understand that. Emmanuel Clase in Cleveland's a perfect example. But why is it that we're doing this thing? And if you look at when the Reds have had these bullpens that have been really successful when they've had these winning teams, it's been the Chapman, Sean Marshalls, Jonathan Broxtons. It's been the Nasty Boys, like you mentioned. It's been the Danny Gray, Scott Williamson, Scott Sullivans, where, you probably have a guy you lean on more than the others, but also you have these other guys that can do the job. And we're sitting here all the time having this conversation about one guy on every team who can do it. And that's just silly to me. But going to what you're saying, where am I at with Alexis Diaz? I'm very back and forth, Steve, in the sense that, do I 1,000% understand when everyone tells me that they're super nervous when they see the gate open and he's running out of the outfield to the mound? Yes, totally get it. Do I also think that realistically he's been very good his last 15, 16 outings? Yes, he has been. I understand that tonight or last night or wherever was not great. It was not. And the fact that Adam Duvall thought he was legitimately trying to hit him was ridiculous to me, because if you'd watched any of the at-bats before you got in there, he was all over the place. But I also get where Cowboys coming from. And I 1,000% agree with what Cowboys said when he said, this is why you don't give him 8 days off, because he's a guy that probably needs to pitch 2 or 3 days in a row. And when you give a guy, I joked on Late Night Reds on Sunday, he probably has the best job in the world right now because they're always up too high for him to come in a game or they're losing. So he just gets to sit there and chill and make some good money and keep his arm nice. So I think that he is a rhythm-centric pitcher in the sense that he needs to kind of have a couple days in a row. He can't sit for 8 days because you get what you got on Monday night. And that's what's frustrating with him. So, and we've seen a lot of that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
He's been very, very up and down this year, but realistically, minus one of the, his first appearance in the second appearance, I guess, in the Marlins series, been pretty darn good.
It's funny because I had our good buddy John Sadak on here a while back.
My guy.
He said the same thing you said, basically, which is he would like to see what Alexis Diaz looks like being used as a closer and being out there every couple days, and basically talked about the workload, the things you said. Here's the deal. In the last 15 games, you talked about him being very, very good in his last 15 games or so. In the last 15 games, he has a 2.4 ERA in 15 games. That amounts to 15 innings, 8 saves. That sounds great. In those 15 games, he's given up 13 hits. That's a problem. He's allowed 4 earned runs. That's a problem. Here's the kicker. In those 15 games, he struck out 13 guys, but guess what? He walked 9 guys in those 15 games. And that is really where the problem is. If we push that out farther and look at his last month of baseball, Tim, he has struck out 25, but walked 19. The biggest part of the problem now is that walks will haunt. That's where all of the damage is coming from. He comes into a game, he walks the first guy, and then it's all downhill from there. I feel like maybe Alexis Diaz is not this shutdown closer that everybody thought he was going to be. He could be considered a really good relief pitcher, but for me, my money right now, not a shutdown guy.
No, I agree with that. I totally do. I don't think he's one of those, you know what I mean? He's not one of those guys we just mentioned. But I think that in this case, and let's be 1,000% realistic in this conversation we're having right now, he's going to be the guy that's going to have that role in 25. Should he? Probably not, but he will be.
Or now Jeff and I have hypothesized that maybe you allow Graham Ashcraft to compete for that role in 2025.
I thought people wanted
to come out and pitch. He can come out and pitch maximum. Stop it. He can come out and pitch maximum effort. Think about this. Graham Ashcraft comes out and pitches maximum effort the 8th and 9th inning. Anytime you bring him into a game, 6 outs, Graham Ashcraft. And then you have Alexis Diaz as your closer 1B, right? He's the guy that pitches when Graham can't go. That is a damn good bullpen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a conversation that comes up quite a bit now with Graham Ashcraft in the sense that should this be his role? Because we see what happens when he gets to the 3rd time in the order. And so at this point, man, I just want guys to get outs. I don't care what their role is. I don't care. Like, fine. Just if you can be a viable pitcher on this team and get outs, great. I don't care what you're doing.
How would you run the bullpen? Because you and I have talked a lot about the fact that you don't like this. You don't like this closer designation. You don't like the idea of a guy that Raisel Iglesias, Mr. Horribly Wrong, as he is known amongst me. How would you run the bullpen? Because there are guys that seemingly can only pitch when it's the 9th inning and the game is on the line.
Yeah, there are. And I just think that, to me, that's silly, but that's neither here nor there. How would I run the bullpen is really a great question because it's not something I've really had a deep thought into. We all know, obviously, that maybe.
Welcome to Locked On Reds, Tim.
Yeah.
Where I ask the hard questions.
Man, you got to prepare for these things first, Steve. I mean, look, I'm the idiot, right? I'm the guy that wanted to roll the Chapman back, and then there's videos on the internet of him doing very unnecessary things.
No.
So, I've retracted that. I've redacted that statement. But I would probably just get, in this case here, we know what they're going to do. They're going to go cheap. They're going to sign guys that they think can get outs that probably can't get outs. And they're just going to roll with it, right? I just feel like in this case here that I would just do everything I can to get guys who can get outs. If that means like 2 lefties, great. If that means 3 lefties, awesome. But
because yesterday I was like, no, you don't trade Sam Moll. You keep him. You keep him in this bullpen next
I
year.
still think you keep him.
Valuable piece. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of people mad at me when I said that I didn't think Justin Wilson was very good. And they were all throwing his stats at me. And then he had 2 losses in the National Series, which again, pitcher winning losses are also stupid.
Very.
But yeah, he was not very good when the team needed him to be in that series by any means 2 days in a row. So, maybe I win one there, maybe I don't. But I just feel like at this point, I don't care who is getting the ball. Can you get guys out and can you help your team win? Because I feel like we've had some guys who can definitely do that. But maybe it's just kind of been more of a struggle than it should be. And God only knows if Nick Martinez is going to be here in a week or two and whatever that's going to be. So.
Yeah, interesting that I didn't talk very much about him yesterday when I was talking about trade pieces. He's probably the only guy in the bullpen that could bring you something semi-significant in return, but also he signed through next season and a valuable piece to the bullpen. So I'm not sure what the Reds are going to do. When Morosi broke the story that the Reds were willing to be sellers, he specifically mentioned that they were willing to be sellers for players with expiring contracts. And there really aren't very many of those.
Yeah, it's like what, 2?
So I don't know what that means. If I was making the decision, I think I don't trade Nick Martinez. I think I hang on to him for another year. And the only trade that I'm making is for a right-handed power bat with multiple years of team control that I can get with prospect capital from spare parts down in the minor leagues. That's the move I'm making. Other than that, I don't see anything on the major league roster to go out and trade.
I'm with you, man, because I think that these young guys, you're not giving up on them. We don't really know what Christian Encarnacion Strand is, but I think he has earned the right to get a shot at a full season if he can do that in 25. And yeah, I mean, realistically, let's be honest. If the Reds put something out where it's like, yeah, we are open to trading Jake Fraley, no one's calling.
No,
and
not at all.
That's no disrespect to Jake Fraley by any means. I hope the best for that guy. But yeah, man, there's just nothing to move. So everyone's like, sell. Like, what are you selling? What do you say? We look like door-to-door salesmen at this point, knocking on the door. Like, would you like to get my internet subscription? No. Okay.
Right? Or more worse, you remember the guys back in the day that used to sell like steaks out of their trunk? It's like that guy. It's
didn't Icky Woods do that for a little while?
Oh man. We're not talking about the Bengals. Let's not beat up on poor Icky.
I love Icky.
He probably did. He probably did. But yeah, it's like that. It's like the guy showing up like, hey, can I interest you in the steak out of my trunk? No, I don't want that. And that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of Locked On Reds. Thank you guys so much for being here. Everydayers, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. Love talking Cincinnati Reds baseball with you. Do me a favor, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. For you folks in the audio feeds, get on X, shout out your questions, shout out your comments. Would love to hear from you. We love talking Reds baseball with you each and every day. Until next time, we are going to continue to cover the Reds. We're going to continue to listen to the rumors. We're going to watch what is going on around baseball as the trade deadline approaches, and we are going to keep you locked on Reds each and every day.